So Matt, just to get started, can you tell us who you are, where you work and what you do?
Sure. Okay, my name's Matt Firth. I teach legal English at the University of St Gallen to law students, and I also run an evening school, an ILEC school, an evening class for the International Legal English Certificate for qualified lawyers. So most of them are trained in law, practicing at some kind of level, so lawyers, paralegals, judges. And so that's part of my job, and most of my work is for a company called Translegal, for whom I develop language materials for lawyers that need English.
Okay, so we're talking about a very specialised field then. We're not just talking about professional English, but we're talking about legal English.
Sure.
So somebody moving into professional English, if they decide to specialise in an area, it could be medical English or legal English as you do, how does one go about acquiring the skills and knowledge one needs to specialise in a very small field? Mm-hmm. And what kind of opportunities are there out there for people?
Okay, well, certainly for legal English, over the last few years, there have been a huge number of opportunities, mm-hmm. and really the whole field has really exploded. And that's partly been led by the Cambridge ESOL exam. There's also been a number of materials published recently, which has led to a huge amount of interest in legal English courses. Mm-hmm. So, but that offers a lot of opportunities for people who want to move into the field. But to answer the question, what can you do to prepare yourself? I think, firstly, you, as with any area of English for specific purposes, you need to be very clear on exactly what your role is in the classroom. Uh-huh. So I think that if I was given the choice of being taught a legal English class as a lawyer by either a qualified language teacher or the lawyer, uh-huh. it's always the qualified language teacher. What they bring into the classroom is the language skills, the teaching skills, and what the students bring into the classroom is the legal knowledge. So it's this idea of the information gap. So okay. You are using your skills as a teacher to be able to get them to communicate in English in legal context.
So you don't need to be an expert in the legal world.
No.
But obviously some knowledge is going to be helpful. So you would have to do some basic reading around.
Sure, I think, with all areas of ESP, I think it's probably good for us to know a certain amount about the subject area, and I can't imagine wanting to teach legal English without some kind of interest in law, but it really is a very interesting subject. So, as with all areas of English, I mean, if you're teaching a general English class, normally if you're using a course book, there would normally be the course books would be arranged, would be kind of topic-based course book. You would read around the topic, you'd be familiar with the materials that you're going to teach. Mm-hmm. Typically teachers' books offer a lot of sort of support and extra explanations, and that's the same with the legal English materials that I'm using. Right. So I think you can be, if you're clear from the start exactly what your role is, I think you can be forgiven if questions come up in the class that are related to particular jurisdictions that you couldn't anticipate. But you need to be very clear on the materials that you're actually using in the class. So if you go in, you need to know how the words are used, how to pronounce them, common collocations, the typical kind of thing that a language trainer would need to know.
I guess a lot of people would be very nervous about a field where they're ignorant of the vocabulary and the specific language. Do you think that's a barrier? People thinking, I don't really know much about.
Yeah, there's certainly a perception that legal English is a lot more difficult to teach as a teacher than other areas of ESP. Mm-hmm. And what I'm doing a lot of work in at the moment is running training sessions that sort of aim to get rid of that fear, to show teachers, experienced teachers generally speaking, who have some experience in business English, that they can actually move into legal English. So at the moment I'm running a series of workshops together with collaboration with ESOL, Translegal and Cambridge University Press. And what we're doing is beginning a day-long workshops. At the beginning we talk about what is legal English, we give them a bit of background, sort of typical kinds of context in which the lawyers are working, what they need to know, right. A few ideas as to how we can do that, a few go through a couple of lesson plans, a few tasks, and then we build up, we talk a bit about the ILEC, and typically ILEC offers a very good way in for people who want to teach legal English because there's a clear syllabus and there's some very good support materials available. And then by the end of the day, we actually have the trainers, or the trainee teachers, we give them some materials and we give them a sort of skeleton of a lesson, what kind of things we would like them to teach, what the aims of the lesson would be, and then we get them in groups preparing a lesson. And it's always fantastic when at the end of the day you've got groups of teachers that are actually presenting 2 90-minute lessons, and you can see that they've lost their fear, they really feel at the end of the day that they could actually really consider going in and teaching an English class. But there are other things as well. I mean, you learn, as with all areas of ESP, you learn a huge amount from the learners.
Of course.
And you can learn from that as well. So listen to the kind of the questions that come up. Very often, if a particular question will come up, I can't think of one case where a law-specific question has not been answered by somebody else in the group. There's always someone there.
So it's losing that fear of not being the real expert in the subject area, but actually being the expert in what you're there to do.
Exactly, yeah. That's exactly the key.
Fantastic. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thanks very much.